Here is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of November 18th through the 22nd. I will go over price targets on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from the week of November 11th through the 15th, and update the chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up this week is Tsly. We ended the day at $14.60, up 3.18%. This is where we are. To the north side, it takes us to one level of resistance and a potential take profit area at 1469. Above that, 1486 and 1502. To the south side takes us back to the middle of the trend and the baseline. I will mark that out. That takes us to roughly 1435. Below that, 1402, 1384, and 1369. This is support, support, and support as well. I will anticipate a bounce if we get to those levels. And then if we get to here, here, and here, I will also expect a sell-off as people take their profits and they run. Looking left, you can see there was a sell-off, sell-off, here and here as well. These are clear signs of resistance along this line. Sometimes we don't touch it, but we don't need to. It's close enough, and then we fall back down. This line turns into support if we are up here, going down to here. And then note here a clear bounce at support, support, support. It doesn't always get to that line, but when it does, if you're playing the linear, that is potentially a signal to buy. It could also be a stop loss, depends on where you bought in and what you're trying to do. This gap closed. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Did it touch right here? Yeah, right there. That was on Thursday the 14th. It opened up on the 11th. So opened on Monday, closed out on Thursday. And let me move this down so you can see this better. Note the clear buy signal and then sell signal. And this was last week's middle of the trend, and unfortunately that is going down. So from here to here is going to be down 2.13%. But from here to here, we were up 9.64%. So congrats if you got up, you got in, got up, and got out. As far as your other gaps to watch out for, this one will take us to 1647 still in play. And above that, am I tracking anything else? That might be the last one I'm tracking to the upside. It's not giving it to us. We've gotten close in the past, but no cigar. Oh, we've got other, oh, look at this. As I look left, this has not touched. So this gap is still in play. I'll fix this later, but again, I have no idea when it's going to touch. I just drag it out, and when it does touch, you clean it up. That way you can tell that that gap is no longer in play. Flip it over to the hour and you can see it a little bit better, or even the 15. But I've got too many tickers to go through. And there, just Option R to reset. What about the gaps to the south side? So we've got a gap here that takes us down to 1201. Oops. Command Z if you want to fix something that you didn't mean to do. And this one will take us down to 1121. But this first gap, if we continue to go south, that will touch maybe around the 20 22nd if we continue to go down. But this thing will whip you around, just like it has in the past. Oh, and just for giggles, I'm going to delete this one since it's so close to the other middle of the trend. And one other observation I want to make. See how this line used to be the middle of the trend? If you mark this out every single week, you're going to get a clue as to where price may hit. So notice here, this was an old middle of the trend from last week. This was a previous one, but this acted as support and a bounce, and that lined up right there. So you've got different pieces of confirmation right here and a bounce, and here and a bounce. So since we are here, this could be a bounce line because we are up here. This could be support, this could be support, and this line is acting as resistance from the week prior. We're trying to bust through this line. Okay, that's enough of that. Tsla is the next one up. We ended the week at 320.72, up 3.07%. First, your price targets. Let me fix this. There we go. To the north side, takes us to 322.32. Oops. That's at 2 standard deviations. Another level of resistance and a potential take profit area, 326.92. 331.40 to the south side, back at the middle of the trend and the baseline, where price will slice through to get to the north side, or in this case, to the south side. So that's 313.42. We'll hit this line, and that could act as support, or we could just grind down following the middle of the trend. And right now we are still in a downward channel. 304.33, 299.98, and 295.27. As far as the gaps go, at the beginning of the week, we gapped up. And then we touched it right there. So this gap is no longer in play to the south side if you went short. That closed out at roughly 321.46. And for this week, the low right here out of the gate to here is roughly a 12% return. But unfortunately, from this line, the previous middle of the trend, to the current middle of the trend, we are still going down. And from here to here is a negative 4.40%. We've got this gap still in play to the south side, taking us to roughly 251.66. Let me turn on the magnet. And then we've got this bugger to 214.29, something I've been, tracking oh gosh. You have to click outside of there so that then I could go back and drag it. Look at this gap. This one opened up on the 24th of October, and we're not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close, but just something to be aware of. And then we've got another one that will bleed us out to 201.65. Okay, that gap, let me clean that one up. We touched to the upside as it continued to climb. This one is done. That took us to 248.87. This gap is done. And what other gap am I looking at? Okay, the target for me is 405.84, but we are in a downward channel, as you can see, moving farther away from this gap and closer to this one. And we could touch by the end of the week if we continue to go south by Friday, and then begin this gap to the downside, closing out at 251.66. And just for giggles, this is the middle of the trend. If we continue south here, the middle of the trend could take us to 287.15. Obviously, you're going to get different buy and sell signals depending upon what time frame you play in. So keep that in mind. And also, you're going to get different resistance levels. If you throw on your Bollinger Bands, your VWAP, trend lines, patterns, whatever you like to play. And the next one is Sofi. Okay. We are here. 1371. 1386, and that will take us to 1401, which is a previous price target. Let me flip this to the hour so you can see it. So on the 15th of July, 2023, I marked this out. That's how long I've been tracking this over here. The forecast was 14. So that is an old target. The new target is, oh, look at that, 14. I've seen other people think it's going to go to like 17 and then the 20s and higher, but if you're just day trading, taking it a day at a time, or a swing trade where I look at this for you week to week, you know, it's like you can't see it. It's hard to see because we move so slowly, but you can see that there is a channel that's going upward. We're grinding up, making higher highs. Okay, that's on the hourly. And what else do I have? Move this. The target I'm looking at is going to take us to 22.79. Not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close, just something to be aware of to the upside. Now back to the 5. That gap closed out. I didn't even bother. Sometimes they're so tiny that I know it's going to get wiped out. So, okay, we've got this gap still in play. For a moment, I thought, did this get wiped out? Nope. No cigar. Still a threat to our count to the south side. And Sofi is going down. So that will take us to 12.98. And that is support along that line. And if we get here, I will anticipate a bounce. But obviously, we could continue to roll over and then bounce from there. And then we have this gap after that to the south side, not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. And then we've got other gaps to the south side here. And this one, which I shouldn't even have bothered. It's so tiny. The deviations will take it out, wipe it out. So let me mark the middle of the trend, and that is right here. Last week it was here. So from the middle of the trend to the next middle of the trend, and that's just playing it conservative, not uber conservative or ultra conservative, just conservative in my eyes. That is a 6% return. Fingers crossed that we don't give it up and go down. But we did that already, so we've hit that area through here. We sliced through it. But this was the middle of the trend. We bounced up, made our way back down. If we hit this, this line will also turn into support, or we grind along this line. But if we continue to go down, the middle of the trend at the end of the week could be 12.82. All right. That's it for Sofi. Boeing, option R. We are at resistance here, still going down. We've got room to go to the upside before it gets overbought. But I don't look at that way. I just use this here as support and resistance. And if we hit this line, that will be resistance, and people, I think, will take their profits, and then the thing will roll over and then bounce off of a different support line. All right. 141.35, and should we be so lucky, but it's very close, 142.70. To the south side, 137.30, 134.62, 133.22, and 131.86. We are stair-stepping our way down. This was the middle of the trend last week, and now it's here. And that is a drop of roughly 9% for the week. All right, the gap that I'm tracking will take us, oh no, what am I saying? This is already closed out, you can see. Yeah, if you look at gaps like I look at them, you'll think, oh, something's off. Yeah, something was off, all right. Right there, that took us down to 147.27. Okay, we bled down, grinding along the middle of the trend and a bounce, because from up here to down here, this is support. So we did get that bounce back up to resistance, back down to support, bled through. This turns into resistance, chopping our way along this line. And then now a bounce. Even on the way down, you can still make a short gain up and then back down to support. And then grinding our way up to resistance. And now that's going to fall down. And then maybe we could bounce, hopefully, and turn this thing around. And the gap that I'm tracking to the north side will take us to 173.66. Not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. But what is the gap below where we are? I don't think I'm tracking anything. So that's good. But the standard deviations will take it out anyway eventually if there's any small gap that I didn't see. I don't bother to mark it. Okay, that is Boeing. Let's look at NEO. $4.53, $4.57, middle of the trend, $4.40, support $4.32, $4.28, $4.24. And I never marked the middle of the trend, or I did and I deleted it so I could get a thumbnail. Sometimes I have to delete it because it gets so congested. This gap closed to the downside. It opened on Wednesday and closed on Wednesday. It's a little micro one. Went up to resistance, fell back down to support. And then we've got these nasty little things here and here. So that will take us to 417, 412, 395. So we start the week here, and the middle of the trend is 409. So I think that is the potential to get down to 409, and then even obviously below that, but just from the middle of the trend to the next middle of the trend as of right now. Obviously things change. That's why you have to look at this constantly if you are day trading. Everything changes, the values change. Option R. Look at that sell off here, resistance. This was your first clue of, a red light going off, and then this is your second red light. Price typically does not ever get to 4 standard deviations in one day, especially if it's down here. So this was a Friday. We went all the way up to here, and that's pretty fabulous. Thursday. Yep. Okay. And then now, the next potential leg up takes us to 77.91, so that's good. If we take a break, pause, and then go up again off support. But here are your levels again, 77.29, 77.61, and as I mentioned, roughly 77.90. Oh, look at this. We're back at the middle of the trend where we were previously. Well, look at that right here. And because this is a new middle of the, well, not really new because we're so close to it. There, I'm just going to delete this that way. Doesn't get confusing. If you don't know what you're doing, you're just starting out and you're marking these things for yourself. This is like a little diary. People talk about writing a diary for trading. Sorry, I have no time. I can't do it. But this is my diary right here, and I like to see it visually. I can look at this and I know exactly what my target is. My target is to this level right here, and that could be my potential out. And this could be, see, it touched here once, but it didn't quite hit it. So, and we are going up for Nike, so that's good. Look at this, clear buy signal. Obviously, it could bleed out and you could continue to go down just like mRNA did. It bled you out. You thought that that was going to end. You know, we went from 48 down to 34-ish, I think, or 32. It was nasty. It kept bleeding out. We didn't find our support. Or every time we hit support, we went to another level of support. And that's why it's important to set your stop loss and get out. All right, 74.67. But we're moving farther away from that. We're just, as of right now, moving away from this because that's going up. But sometimes if we're close to it, I like it to slam to the south side, close out that gap, and be done with it because this will haunt you in the end. Right, and I think that might be it for now. You go woke, you go broke. You got to have common sense. This thing took a beating, Nike did. And now the country's going the opposite direction again. Going back to common sense here. Put people in jail that steal things. That's not that difficult. Don't make the bar so high that people want to do it. 77.28, 77.59, 77.90, the middle of the trend, 76.90, 75.80, and roughly 75.49. See, the incline going up isn't that steep. It's just finally a gradual upward movement here. Note the buy-in at support, sell off at resistance, resistance, resistance. This gap is still in play. Oh, what happened? Oh, this, oh, yay, I finally get to clean up this one. I didn't do that. Oh yeah, I didn't do that because it happened out of the gate Monday. All right, so this is no longer in play to the upside. Right there, it touched. Monday out of the gate, done 78.38. And the next one will be, oh, we got a gap, baby gap within a gap. So 81.40-ish. And then all the way up there. Oh, we got tons. Not even close. Don't even bother. And then the buy-in here at support. And where was the old middle of the trend? Did I mark it? No, well, if I did mark it, I deleted it. Okay, moving on. Option R. Okay, we are at the middle of the trend and the baseline here to the north side. 86.99, 87.59, and 88.24. The middle of the trend takes us to where we are right now, basically. Slightly below it, actually. 85.79, 84.56, 83.96, and 83.36. Old support, old middle of the trend lines that now turn into support, I should say. Wow, okay, this needs to be cleaned up. It's glaring at me that there's something that needs to be changed. Okay, let me clean this up. This gap here touched right there when we gapped up. There was this gap. It's hard to see because this is in the way. We had a gap right here. So that's where we touched at 83.45 and continued our run up. This gap up means there's going to be a gap to the downside though, whenever we retrace to that level. That could be at the end of the week, taking us down to roughly 82.99. 82.99. And so I cleaned that one up. What is happening here? This is a gap that will take us to 79.31. Oops. Oh, and this little puppy, 73.19. Not in the channel, not in the zone, just something to be aware of. But this one could touch maybe, oh, that's 2 weeks out. No, so I'm not going to tell you. We're just looking at this week, 1 week at a time. That's all I'm doing. Flip it over to the daily or whatever other time frame if you want to see bigger picture moves. But just for giggles, all I'm doing is week to week here. So this is where we are. So at the end of the week, we could potentially get to 34.30, but obviously that would go down even more if we played the -2 standard deviations. But I'm just saying, retracing, if we go back down and then make our way up, we could hover around this area. All right, I think, what is the gap I'm playing to the upside? Oh, wait a minute. I'm done with this ticker. I own PayPal and I'm letting this thing ride, but all I was doing was tracking up to this level. That's why I think I don't have any other gaps up, because once it hits the gap that I initially am targeting, I'm done. So we finished this at the beginning of the week, Monday, the 11th, and I'm done because look, we went even all the way up here. And so no, I'm done with this ticker. I'm not going to track it anymore except for myself, and then randomly, if anybody's interested in it, I can go over it later down the road. But for the purposes of my gap and go ticker, this is done. And actually, I think I have to change this to gap. The gap and go. This is number 50. Oh my gosh, this is my 50th week of doing gap and go videos. I forgot to change this out. So let me update that. But that's it. The gap I was tracking was filled at 83.49-ish. And I started tracking it here, this gap. Okay. Oh, previously, I think is what I did. Now I'm just rambling on. But anyway, I'm done tracking this ticker because I have not gone left to see what's going on. So I'm pretty sure that is it. So that gap closed as well. Let me delete that. I've got a lot of cleaning up to do with my ticker here. I have traded this in the past. Maybe I'll look at this later for a big picture. That gap is closed. So that's it. Yay. All right. Let me go on to the next ticker. But watch out for the gaps to the south side if you are in this trade. All right, the next one is Unilever. Oh, wait a minute. I'll do one thing. Yeah, I did. Okay. We are at the middle of the trend, basically. Okay, 57.41, 57.67, 57.80, 57.94, 57.15, 57.01, and 56.88. We had 3 gaps that I was tracking. They all, nope, 2 of them closed. Let me clean up this one. This one closed out on Friday. It opened up on Friday and closed out at 57.39. So from here, we gapped down and then filled it on the way up. And then this one, we gapped down. Oops, I did not change the color of that. So let me do that. So we gapped down and then it fills up and it touched right there, Wednesday to Wednesday. So if you're just playing the gap, bounced up and filled it. and then we gap down. So that means we will fill on the way up. That will bleed into next week. And that will take us to 58.21. And then we have these other gaps as well. Drag that out. That will take us to 59.52. Please let us get back there. Good Lord, we have tons of retracement to do. We have many gaps to the upside to play. But right now we're going down. You can see that. And look at the buy in here, quick ride up. RIVN. Okay, I'm going to start deleting some of these previous middle of the trend. Okay, that was last week. So that was the previous week, and then after that. So let me erase this bottom one since it's 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So let's just get rid of it. That way it doesn't clog up our chart. So that's the one I'm going to delete. Well, actually, that takes us right to it again. Yeah, I'll just do that. All right, 10.05. So this is going to act as resistance, and so will this line. And this line, and this line, and this line, and every other line that slices in between that. But that's not what I really play. I just make bigger movements within this time frame from here to here. I let it swing a little longer, because if you did this is like the bot telling you to buy or sell, buy or sell, buy or sell, and I don't trade that way. All right, the gap that I am tracking will take us to roughly 10.23, 2 standard deviations, 11.70, 12.52, and roughly 13.36. To the south side, 8.41, 7.56, and 6.73. We've got a gap here that I've been tracking, just a tiny one. All right, we gapped up, which means we will fill to the downside. Let me clean this up. It looks like, nope, that's right. We touched right here to the south side. It took a while to get there, but we did, taking us down to 9.73. No longer a threat to our account. See, look at this. Look at this nice high we were on. Grinding up and then hitting this area, falling back down. And the pattern repeats itself. The gap that I will, Command Z, that I will be tracking will take us to 17.47. And then after that, 23.34. And from this period, this line right here, snap a line for yourself, and this line, that would take us to 8.15. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me go through these quickly. I have to go. Command Z, I don't know what I just did. All right. Middle of the trend and the baseline, 24.90. 25.66, 26.04. Don't hold your breath for Monday on this, but maybe at the end of the week, 26.44. We could gap up and then, not gap up, excuse me, wick up and then slam back down. But look at, all I'm doing is retracing back to a level I was at previously, 24.12, 23.74, and 23.35. We are here. This could be a support line, stop loss, stop loss, stop loss, or buy in, buy in, buy in, depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, and this gap that I'm tracking will take us to 29.04. Are we going to hit it? Not likely in this upcoming week. But if we do, you can bet people will take their profits, they will lock in, and they will leave, because that will have taken us forever to retrace back to that level. And Intel has had so much bad news. Okay, this gap is still in play, down to 23.34 and then 21.64. But that will look perfectly lines up with -4 standard deviations. Okay, and finally, NNE, which is also in my nuke stocks that I've been doing. And I did give the targets already, but if you haven't seen that video, which you most likely have not, I'll just give you the price targets really quickly again. The middle of the trend is right here, 24.50, 25.66, and that lines up with a gap closure at roughly 26.92, 94-ish. And then this level is 19.62. Takes out the gap if we hit 18.37 and takes out that gap at 17.70, and then watch out for the gap down to 15.59. And that does it for me. Oh, and more to the south side. Ugh. We will retrace though. This was the old price target up here. We almost hit it, but not quite. So that means we are still going to be tracking it as a gap fill. All right, that does it for me. Have a great trading week.